Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our first Weather KSAT Insider virtual event. We are so happy that you guys are joining us. You are our KSAT Insiders. You are loyal KSAT viewers. We're so thankful for that. You may hear some noise in the background. That is because we are live in the newsroom. The
It's not my tummy grumbling right now.
Ooh, that's what I was hearing. So yeah, we're a bit casual. We're hanging out. We're having fun. All of the weather team here. We have an opportunity for you to ask questions in the chat, and we're going to do our best to answer them toward the end of our discussion. But one of the reasons why we're having this virtual Insiders event is because of Mia. We're so excited. Our new meteorologist, Mia Montgomery, not new to the area though, Mia.
Right, yes. I grew up in Floresville, so literally right down 181. And I mean, we grew up coming to San Antonio weekly. Like we would, every weekend we would come here. So this was always the dream, was to come back. I watched KSAT growing up, so I cannot tell you
It's perfect.
how thrilled I am to
The
be
question
here
is,
with these wonderful
did you watch Mike growing up?
Absolutely! I remember Mike.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
From birth all the way to now.
I know. It's just like, when I was born, the first thing I remember, but I could barely walk.
I remember watching Mike Osterhage.
You're a legend. You're a legend.
I don't know about that,
Yes.
but
Guys, trust me, we've got some pictures of these legends right here when they first started off in the business. So we're excited to do that. But first, we wanted to talk a little bit about you, Mia.
Okay.
Put you on the spot.
I know, the hot seat.
And again, remember, if you have any questions for Mia, you can ask them in the chat. Please do. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these pictures here of you, girl. And you can talk a little bit about you growing up in Floresville and maybe what got you interested in weather. So what are we looking at
so
here?
that, Justin and Sarah probably know exactly where that is. That is on the top of the Eller O&M building, the meteorology building at Texas A&M with some of my really good friends from college. There's just a big radar on the top of that building, and so every year the seniors are able to go and take a look at the radar, so that was really cool.
And that's one of your internships.
Yes,
right?
I did an internship at the Weather Channel in between my junior and senior year at A&M, and I was in Atlanta for the whole summer, and I just got that's honestly where I learned our graphics system and things like that, and it was just so cool to see how a weather broadcast operation works on a national perspective.
Cool.
So that was really, really cool too. And this is in Floresville. That's me and my little sister Capri with the Floresville Tiger.
Nice.
I think that was homecoming week or something. But yeah, I grew up in Floresville. I love it.
were you a cheerleader too?
I was not a cheerleader. I played sports.
Okay.
My sister is very much, like if you meet my sister, she's very much the cheerleader out of both of us. You could just tell.
Awesome.
But yeah, so grew up in Floresville, graduated from A&M, fun fact, in the middle of the pandemic.
Hence the mask.
In May of 2020.
Oh my
so,
goodness, what
yes,
a time to graduate.
What a
That's true.
time to graduate and really enter the workforce.
Absolutely.
That was the most interesting thing, was just kind of learning how to do everything when we were on lockdown. You couldn't see your coworkers on a face-to-face basis all the time. But so my first job was at KBTX in Bryan College Station. I interned there, and I mean, it was just so cool to stay there and not be a college student. We got to do weather things, and broadcasting from Kyle Field outside of Aggie games, and report live, just doing a whole bunch of different things around that
You still get to
community.
tailgate?
I wish we got
at
to
the time.
tailgate.
She was.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
She did.
But it honestly was just fantastic, and I loved being there even after I graduated from A&M. It was such a wonderful market to start, because I just think College Station's so unique, because it's a big town,
Yeah,
but
it is.
it's small at the same time, because a lot of it's just university. That was the 2021 winter storm.
Oh my goodness, was it as bad? Like, how
It
long
was
were you
bad.
guys without power?
I mean, they were
Bryan
just
College?
rolling
Yeah.
blackouts, and so we, thankfully our station had put us up at the hotel. I think y'all had something very similar,
did.
similar
Yeah.
set up here. They put us up at the hotel right down the road, and I mean, every time the power would come on, if we were there, if we weren't at the station, we'd have to take a shower real quick and try and fix your makeup real quick, even though why did we even try?
Who's that handsome guy?
That is my wonderful boyfriend. We've been together for, it'll be 8 years next month.
Oh, wow.
Yes. He went to Floresville as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, he went to A&M too, and he's just wonderful. But yeah, it's been so wonderful just coming back. We did a story with the Files in Floresville with the Peanut Festival a couple weeks ago, and I was on the court as a high school student, and so just kind of being able to come back and really tell the story that I know, obviously Floresville is just rooted, no pun intended, rooted so deeply in the peanut fields out
true.
that way. So
I gotta ask, who's Floresville's biggest rival when it comes to like football and stuff?
Medina Valley.
Okay.
Growing up, it was always Medina Valley.
You're still gonna give them a good forecast though.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We won't, yeah. But
Just not as peppy. There we go.
have a little bit more of a smile.
Well, when did you first get into weather? Like interested in it?
So, some of us have a typical meteorologist story, some of us don't. I have the typical one.
Yep.
I was 3 years old in Floresville, and it was a Friday night. I remember my parents had gone to San Antonio for date night, so I was at home with my babysitter. And we must have had tornado warnings in the area because I remember her screaming at me to go hide in the back of my parents' closet. She said, go hide in the closet. I've got to, check on some things real quick and I'll be right there. And I just wanted to go and look outside and see what was going on because the thunder was so loud. It was shaking the house. You could hear the wind outside. And I vividly remember that day and that night, really. And since then, I just always had such an interest for it. And so
it didn't scare you. It had the opposite.
It didn't scare me.
Okay.
At first I kind of was scared, I think probably because she was just like, go in the closet.
Sure.
And I was like, oh my gosh. But honestly, I was just fascinated. I wanted to see what all of it was about.
I think your passion for weather is something that totally translates.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It
Whenever
does,
you're
yeah.
on camera. And I wonder, do you have any other passions, like hobbies or things that you like to do outside of work?
Traveling is my biggest one. I love to hike, be outdoors. I have a golden doodle, Coco, and she is 60 pounds, so she's
Wow.
a big dog.
More golden than
We're
doodle,
golden
right?
doodle. And she thinks she's a lap dog too, so she'll come and she'll just sit on my lap. I'm like, oh my goodness, but she loves to be outside also. So we just like to go hike the trails, hang out, and
The hill country, like Government Canyon.
so we've been
whereabouts?
to Lost Maples.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in the
Great.
fall,
Great spot.
obviously beautiful, so fun, and yeah, that just being outdoors is one of
Have
my
you
favorite
done
things.
Enchanted Rock? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Whenever I
that's-
was younger, I haven't done it since I've moved back. But I remember my parents took my sister and I there whenever we were younger, and it was a blast.
Well,
We
now
had
you can
fun.
just forecast when you go out there.
There you
It's
go.
perfect,
Yeah.
so.
Take some cool video.
So again, if you guys have questions for Mia, please ask them in the chat. We'll be able to answer them in a bit. I wanted to show people a picture of your first job here at KBTX. Talk a little bit about where you were at in life during this time.
So this is my internship with them, and I always joke that I guess I didn't mess things up too terribly, considering that I got to work for them after I graduated. But yes, that is senior year in college, Mia, with the blonde highlights at
Love
the
it,
bottom of my hair. I can't really let my hair grow out there. But yes, so I loved my internship there. Just they're wonderful people. And Sarah, you had a very similar experience at KBTX,
I did. I was
right?
able to intern there.
Yeah.
We've got a couple pictures
Yeah.
a little bit later. But funny story, you and I actually met before you worked
That's
here.
right.
Back in 2017, you came here to get a tour of the station.
Yep, it was our winter break at A&M, and I remember
Who would've known?
I wanted to see, if broadcasting was something that I would be interested in. So I remember I sent an email to the weather team, and you had responded within like 12 hours or something. And you were like, "Yeah, come shadow
Pretty
me
good.
Say whatever." I know that response time was really good.
Really good.
And so yeah, I came in, and I was just 100% sold.
Awesome. Well, we are so happy to have you here, Mia.
Yep.
I couldn't just put you on blast. I had to put the rest of the weather team on blast. So I
Sarah organized all of this.
She did a great job.
She
y'all.
did.
Mike, are you ready?
Is this okay? This is the only one I could find, just
Okay.
at kind of a moment's notice.
Talk a little bit about your hometown, where you went to school.
That hair though.
Picture.
No,
It's
There's a
so
whole big story
awesome.
behind the picture. But
Okay,
I grew up
okay.
in suburban Detroit and went to Western Michigan University for a couple of years, transferred to Oakland University, and got my communications degree there, and then my meteorology from Mississippi State. And my first job was in Flint, Michigan. Ginger Z, who's on ABC,
Yeah.
worked at the same, not at the same time, at the very same station, WEYI up there. I was commuting 70 miles one way, back and forth, doing morning cut-ins starting off. So I was still living at home. And then that was for about 8 months. And then I got my job in Green Bay, was up there for about 3-4 years or so. And then when I was in Memphis, working at the ABC affiliate there, do you remember, you all, I don't know if you know who Vicki Lawrence is?
Yep.
She was on the Carol Burnett show, and she used to have a talk show that was the Vicki show. And one of the things, so they were
It's
looking
such
at,
a Mikeism coming along.
at local, hang on, at local news anchor and weather people and everything like that, and let's kind of not makeover necessarily, but dress them in something other than suit and tie and the usual outfits. So
that picture is from
was when I was on the Vicki show out there.
I see.
And out in Los Angeles. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Dude,
the
your
hair-
hair's perfect.
I just gotta
Such a
say,
good photo.
That was 1993. So.
your sun tie looks exactly like you in this picture.
Spot
like
on.
spot
Yep.
on.
Yeah.
And you have been here, my friend, since 1995.
1995. So
What has been the
27
biggest
years?
change since 1995?
27 years.
I mean, and besides going from magnets on the wall to a computer.
Actually, my
Yeah.
very first job, a very, very small
Yeah.
station, the one in Flint, we had magnets.
I don't doubt it. Absolutely.
The nice thing about magnets is they never lock up. and they
You don't have
never
to
restart.
and
Restart.
the clicker never doesn't work at the proper time. The biggest change has just been really the advent of all the online and everything, and also the weather systems. Because it used to be so difficult to do things with them. And now it's so simple, the way the data comes in, using computers. My very first job I learned from a guy, in Green Bay, and they used to have thermofax maps.
Wow.
I remember those.
A roll of paper that was soaked in a saline solution or something, and it was it would just print it out just with electricity. And you'd go in there with colored pencils, and we'd look at the vorticity, and I was taught how to color this in by this guy, and that was my first real good lesson from this guy about all that. So, yeah.
I could just sit and listen to Mike's stories
All day.
All day.
It's like Justin loves my stories in the morning.
I do.
He's in an hour of being
I
here,
do.
so he asks me
Always
all the
good.
time, can you tell me some dad jokes? Can you do your Ronald Reagan for me, Mike, please?
Every day.
Every day. And
Every
we
day.
can, every day. I can't just put them on blast. I got to put me on blast. So here's a look at when I first started in the biz.
These are good.
Some nice bangs
Oh,
going
yeah.
on there.
Nice.
I grew up here in San Antonio and a little in Dallas, but mainly, since I've been 8th grade, I was here in San Antonio. Another Aggie, Gig'em. And that picture on the right of your screen is when I interned at KBTX, hence the long hair. I guess when you're an intern, you gotta have long
I guess
hair.
so.
And the swoopy bangs. And then I worked before this at K10 in Texoma, which is right on the Texas-Oklahoma border. So I've been here since 2017. I love it. It's my hometown.
You look
It's
just like
pretty
your
awesome.
sister in that one picture.
Yeah, you actually do.
Yeah, it's true. We do look a lot alike. So. But yeah, I mean, let's keep on going. Let's keep the fun times rolling. And Justin, guess what? You're next.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, J-Ho the weather, bro. Look at that. That's a good one.
That's a throwback. That was like what 2005-ish. Good
That's
times.
what the frosted tips are, right?
Yeah.
Please tell me you frosted.
There were no frosted tips. People have asked me that. That did not
I'm
happen.
gonna say, I say this every time. You look like Ben Affleck in this
Oh,
picture.
I'll take that. Thank you.
I think it looks a little like Ryan Reynolds at times.
Well, I'll take that too.
Oh yeah, he gets that. Yeah.
Both good, yeah.
But I grew up in Midland mostly. I lived a little bit in a town called Pecos, but San Angelo, I worked there. When I worked in Midland and Houston and now San Antonio. My wife's from Fort Worth. My sister lives in Tyler, so I got Texas covered. Love the state. Love being here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've been here since 2010.
2010.
So you just celebrated your 12th anniversary, but
Yeah.
10 is the big milestone.
Yeah.
That's
Going on
pretty
12.
awesome.
Yeah.
Notice how the seating arrangement put all three Aggies next to each
Hey,
other.
we did. We got to stick close together, right? We got
can
to
I
stick
say?
together. All right. You guys ready for Adam?
Oh boy, here we go.
Speaking of hair,
Yeah, baby.
handle it.
Oh, that lettuce. That lettuce was good. Oh, I guess I need to tell about
Yeah,
it.
you
Okay,
gotta talk
so
about
those were both back in college. So I got my first job when I was at University of North Dakota. That's after growing up in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. Haven't lived there since I was 18 though. Went to UND, their atmospheric science department, part of their aerospace department. And going into my junior year is when I got a job at KVRR in Fargo. So I made the drive about 70 miles every weekend night and weekdays when I filled in. And that's that beauty on the left there, that shot. And then my first thermometer on
You
the
were making
right.
them back then?
That's how I learned.
Really?
My freshman year, Dr. Ron Reinhardt, that was April of 2000.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, for instrumentation class, he came up with the procedure how to make a rudimentary thermometer, because no better way to learn and appreciate calibration, range, resolution, et cetera, than to do it yourself. So we did. Now I fine-tuned the process, but we've been in touch ever since. He even retired when I was there. But then I went to Washington, D.C. I was there for 11 years. I've been here for 8 years, and Texas is home.
And
man.
we've been talking about those thermometers. You're already working on your ornaments.
Oh, I'm all in on the ornaments
Yeah.
right now. It's that time of year.
Was that the same professor that you showed me the one time, Megan, that has that formula when you have to calibrate them and everything?
Oh,
that
yeah.
Because you go to the deep freeze and get them down to zero.
Yep.
and-
Yeah. He's one of the
He's the
smartest
one who
guys
came
I've
up with
ever
that?
known.
That's incredible.
That's really cool.
He wrote the book Radar for Meteorologists that a lot of people use too. So he was, anyway.
Oh, really?
And you know,
That's how the thermometer started.
and you're good at them too.
Yeah.
You're really good.
Well-
I have like 5 of them. They're awesome.
I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of students do it, and either they think, okay, it was kind of cool, or they just hate it.
Right.
Right? And I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And they'd like unlock the lab for me. I'd go in on my own time and like try to make other ones. And I took a big break while living in DC. Then finally, as I always told myself, I'd get back into it. So I did. And it took about 2 years of fine tuning the process to really get it working properly. But I did. And some phone calls with the old professor.
Absolutely. And you know, you actually, a lot of people have been paying attention. You actually went down to Fort Myers.
Oh, yes.
Your family, your in-laws, their house, got pretty devastated by Fort Myers. And we actually have some footage of that if you want to talk about your experience.
Yeah, so they got hit by the storm surge. So it threw the furniture all over the place, tipped over their washer, dryer stuff. So they, it was about hip deep in parts of the house, and it really, all the rugs were squishy. You know, they have a tile floor, but everything's squishy. You can see the mold line already in that
my
closet.
gosh.
So that kind of gives you an idea. But they're almost 80 years old, and they didn't really know what they were walking into. You can see the water line there in the door. They didn't know what to expect, and they needed someone to help, really.
Yeah.
My wife, their daughter obviously had to stay back here with the kids, but I was the best suited to go with them and loaded up Old Blue, my pickup, with tools and equipment.
And that's Marine One, right?
Yeah, that's Marine One. They always
wow.
have 2, sometimes 3 of them flying, just so people don't know exactly which one the president's in. But saw that fly over. Which, after living in D.C. for 11 years, I was like, there's the president again. I mean, honestly, it was.
And he was texting us. The 5 of us always text together all the time, by the way. But you said that there was an insurance adjuster there that said this was who was at Katrina and Harvey, and I said, as bad?
Yeah, he said actually this was the worst he's seen since Katrina. He's been through Harvey and Matthew and a bunch of them. Now Matthew, obviously, it just didn't hit as densely of a populated area, whereas he said Harvey was, a lot of rain just in Houston in a bowl, practically, right? So it's just, standard flood damage. He goes, but this is just a combination of wind and flood at a lot of the houses you go to, and so that was his assessment of it after working in the New Orleans area for a year after Katrina.
You ever seen fish just lying on the street like that?
That was something I wasn't prepared for. There's always something, Justin, you've seen all, destruction and whatnot, and we see it on the news and stuff, but I've never actually lived through the recovery part of it, We tend to report on it and leave. This was a different situation for me, and I wasn't prepared for the fish and the smell.
I was going to say, I bet that did not.
Especially at
smell
like
good
1
all.
o'clock with that sun way up there.
How far inland are they?
1.7 miles from
So the
the
fish
beach.
went-
Oh yeah, because the surge came up and just pushed everything. Now it was, they're right between Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel Island. So what you see on the news, they're like right in between
Oh
there.
my goodness. How are they doing? Are they
Much
okay?
better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
much better.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Got
coming
it.
along. But just needs to be done, and they're not the first to go through it. A lot of people out there know exactly what we were doing.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, if you guys have questions, anything popping up, make sure to ask it in the chat. What I thought would be fun for us to do is just like kind of talk about a day in the life of a meteorologist, how we go about forecasting and those kinds of things. So the first thing to know.
We have a really good dartboard. We just
That's it.
gotta have really
sometimes
balanced
it almost
darts,
seems like that way.
balanced darts, good
Yeah.
flights on them.
And it's right almost all the time.
It's funny how that
It's
happens.
amazing.
Crazy.
So a lot of people, may not know that we do forecast ourselves. We go to school for 4 years to become meteorologists or more, and it is so much math and science. It really is. Let's go ahead and take this graphic here. Look at the top left of your screen. That, my friends, is called the quasi-geostrophic vorticity advection equation. And it takes a long time to do that by hand.
Having nightmares.
I big time PTSD from
You guys are
diving.
getting a little bit of flashbacks?
Yeah, I had that at 8 a.m. too
I
on
know.
Thursdays. Oh,
So-
or Fridays even. Yeah, it was brutal.
8 a.m.
Oh,
so
right?
bad.
What a class. Anyway, back to the point.
So basically this math, if you were to do it by hand, it would take forever.
And that's how they were done
That's
for a
how
while.
they were
yeah.
done for a
And-
while before we had computers.
And we were trained to do them by hand too.
We were,
Yeah, you still
absolutely.
are trained to do it, but yeah.
Absolutely. But now that we have computers to be able to do that math for us, we are able to look at computer models hours, days, sometimes a week and a half ahead, although it's not that reliable outside of a week and a half. But what we do is we examine these computer forecast models, and are they right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. They're based on observations, and from hour to hour, there can be tiny variances in this forecast model. And so what we have to do is we have to take our education, our understanding of the lay of the land, the way the weather typically works, climatology, and we forecast. And you can see on that screen again, there's our forecast sheets.
Yeah, most notably here, Justin has the
Handwriting.
nicest handwriting of any guy I know.
I knew that was coming.
Absolutely does. He absolutely does.
I like neatness. I can't help it.
And because we save our forecast sheets and put them on each other's desks for the next person to come in, or just have them out and available. And I always oh my, Justin, your R's are impeccable.
Wonderful
fancy.
penmanship.
They're so fancy.
Nice little loops on those
Yes.
sixes. Gorgeous, darling.
Well, thank you.
Okay. But anything you guys want to talk about forecasting briefly or anything
Also,
like
the
that?
gap in observations.
Yes.
There's such a big gap of hundreds of miles in good upper air observations sometimes that you just can't have a full snapshot of the weather, which is one of the difficulties, and which is why we'll never have perfect forecasts in our lifetime. And I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit here.
Oh,
Okay.
here we go.
So I haven't been doing this as long as
We
Mike,
actually
but
have
for
a box if you
we
want
do
to
have a
stand on
box.
it, so, yeah.
But in my 21 years maybe doing this, I don't know. I've noticed a big shift in difference since the advent of the iPhone and smartphones,
I see.
where people can do things instantaneously now, and we take it for granted. Which fine, whatever, that's different. But the expectations of meteorology far exceed our capabilities. Where but well, I could do this, I could do that. Well, I have an app for this. The information's there. Well, AccuWeather.com has a 40-day forecast. So what? But doesn't mean it's right or good, And the expectations of the public far exceed our capabilities. And I always try to reel people in, and that's my biggest thing about the forecasting is, no, we can't tell you if it'll rain exactly at your house at 4 p.m. 3 days from now. Give you statistical odds, but it's just we're not there yet scientifically, and we won't be in our lifetime. No. We won't.
We would have to have observations everywhere that are reliable.
And
yeah.
better computers too, faster
Exactly.
computers.
Exactly.
Computers can do
More
everything,
data.
not the volume of calculations for meteorologists.
So,
So
again,
that's part of my soapbox.
Yeah, I like that so. And
Yeah.
while we're on the subject, chance for rain is a combination of certainty on whether or not it will rain and aerial coverage. So when we say a 20% chance of rain, we have to explain what exactly that means for that particular day.
That does not mean 20% of the area will get rain,
Right.
because then it would mean 100% chance there and 0 elsewhere. So it's just, again, the chance of getting it in a
Absolutely.
particular spot. So.
And if we were to just show our forecast sheets on television, that'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? Although we would all be entertained by
Yeah, Justin's would be
Justin.
fine.
Yeah.
Well,
handwriting.
Handwriting.
Might
My
be
chicken-
better.
My
So-
chicken scratch. So.
So we all do make our own graphics. Every day we come in, we make our own graphics. This is actually look at what our weather computer looks like. So it's its own program, and it kind of looks a little bit like Adobe if you do any video editing. We've got pause points and things like that. So that's how we make our own graphics. And it is an
Keyframes.
art.
We're kind of
It's-
graphic
there are
designers too.
So many things that you can do with that. Yes.
And the other side of it too that I think can be overlooked by some folks is kind of the psychological side of making these graphics. We have to take it from something like that to something that's visually appealing and not distracting and not too much, not too little. There's a lot that goes into it and a lot that needs to be thought through, and it can take some time.
Yeah,
and
so
experience to kind of get it down.
Depending on how
It's always
busy the
changing.
forecast is, you know, sometimes we'll get in 3-4 hours before we actually have to be on television,
Oh, yeah.
depending on how challenging things are.
The other thing, when talking about computer models and how, you know, because we always talk about this, oh, these don't handle this, you know, shallow cold air real well, or different kind of idiosyncrasies they have, and that's where it comes into play where, okay, so a model says a front's going to come through early in September. That never, rarely happens, so it's kind of the experience of that, and that's also the nice thing about working with these 4 people is having the 4 smartest people, you know, working with them and seeing what the opinions are. Because we all have different opinions on what's going to happen, and we're always texting, always, especially in big weather situations, what you think is going to happen. And you take that information. I'll use that a lot more sometimes than even computer models.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about? What do you think?
I like to make Justin nervous with increasing the pops, the probability of precipitation.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I'm going 60, baby.
Oh boy.
Really? You sure? Okay.
Are you sure?
Okay, because he knows he's going to have to like maybe stick with it the next morning too.
Sweating it out.
Sweating it out. You get so nervous. I better verify. I love it.
It's true.
Oh, Jake.
Those are facts.
One thing I love about you. I love it.
So I wanted to take the viewers, you guys, your KSAT Insiders, inside our studio, but I can't take the camera with you, so this is a video earlier. You can see Justin here in our weather lab. He's talking to the camera. This is often that shot where you'll see us in the weather lab. He's getting ready to do his forecast. By the way, the cameras are all automated by folks in the back, so we don't actually have any camera operators in studio. And Justin is speaking right here in front of the green screen. You'll notice he's not stepped into the green screen yet, but take a look at these side monitors as he's about to step into it, and you'll be able to see
Dramatic
him there.
pause.
Yeah, dramatic pause.
And notice that there's not a
Suspense.
teleprompter. Also,
Exactly.
True.
that is one of the common misconceptions of meteorologists. You know, anchors have their scripts and they're wonderful at all of that. But for meteorologists, it would be really hard to script out a 3.5-minute weathercast. You know, so we just kind of get up there and we just talk on the fly.
Our weather graphics are our
Yes,
teleprompter.
yes.
Yep.
And there's Ursula and David. They're paying very close attention, thank goodness, to Justin's forecast. Right there on the news desk. Hi, Ursula and David. And again, just another tour around here. Our weather computers actually used to be up those stairs there on the right of your screen, up in the attic. There is the cube, what we call the cube. You'll see a lot of us stand in front of there, especially Mike in the morning for one of his newscasts. And Mike,
Traffic.
that's the traffic wall there. And let me take you into the back where our wonderful camera operators and directors are, and they are working very, very busy there to get the show put together. So, you know, it used to be that this room was totally filled to the brim with people for a lot of different things, and we've got a core crew here who is great at making us look good on television.
And so much automation, because a lot of the show is actually every single thing that happens, be it a microphone opening up, a different camera shot, is all pre-programmed. And so they just click through it like that. But then there are times, like in breaking weather situations especially, where you kind of got to jump out and it's the old-fashioned way. And you're just, you know, taking that. The other thing, when looking at the monitors on the side where we can see ourselves in front of the green wall, as I always try to explain to school kids, the one tough thing is when we're looking straight ahead at the camera, because it's not a mirror.
I
So
know.
everything is backwards.
It's interesting. And in fact, speaking of the green screen, and being the millennial that I am,
Oh, yeah.
I've got a TikTok about how the green screen works. So let's watch
Spivey's
it.
TikTok.
Hey guys, my name is Sarah. I'm a meteorologist, and by far one of the biggest questions I get is, how does the green screen work? How do I know where to look? I spend a lot of time pointing at numbers, and obviously it's just a green screen behind me. Well, here's how that works. Our camera that faces me actually mirrors what you see on television, so I can see myself. I'm pretty much looking at myself the whole time. And then if I want to point to something, there are side monitors that show me what I'm looking at as well. So it's really not all staring at green. I'm actually looking at the numbers. Do you have any questions about what it's like to be a meteorologist?
Well,
That was great.
Yeah.
Well
Nicely
done.
done.
so feel free to ask some questions on there. I mean, guys, how long did it take you to get comfortable on the green screen when you
Forever.
first started?
A while.
Yeah.
My first we had a little studio in college, which, you know, was primitive, but, you know, it was Earthwatch 3D system. You've probably heard of Earthwatch. I don't think anybody. Anyway, it was one of the it was the first 3D weather graphic system that ever came out. Paul Douglas. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, it was on Prairie Public Television. It was on Prairie Public Television up in at PBS. That was my very first job, and so that was a good way to get into it and do that.
It's like riding a bike, though. Once you do it a few times, then it's like second nature.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. A question I get sometimes is like, do you guys ever still get nervous on camera at all, or, you know?
It's like getting up to bat.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
At this
You know,
point, it
That's
really
a
is.
that's a good way to put it.
But you got to get sometimes that little bit of nervous energy, because also if you're not sometimes, and then you make mistakes, because you kind of get a little lackadaisical about it. So
I'd say I don't really get nervous anymore so much as I get extremely focused.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like when you got to be serious, I can get extremely focused.
Sure.
Which just makes sense. So, last but not least, before we get to the question and answer, Adam, you want to talk about our super awesome weather app?
Oh yes, I do. Okay, and I mean, I will be the first to tell you. I think most apps out there that pertain to the weather should have a C and an R before the word app, but not ours. Not ours, and I'm serious because they're not very good weather apps, right? Ours is amazing, and what I love about it is, you know, our station ownership, Graham Media, we built it. And that means we can basically do what we want. We modify everything. We literally go hour by hour over the next 48 hours and input those conditions by ourselves if they need to be tweaked, which usually they do, because otherwise it's just computer information. And also, our live, what we call app casts. You know, so if you're not in front of your television, or if we're not on air covering just inconvenient weather, like storms that have popped up that aren't severe, or cold fronts moving in or updating you on tropical situation, you know, you can go and we'll sometimes be live straight from our studio, and that is the biggest asset I think that we have with it. And if you lose power, you still have us there, or if you just need to go into the closet or wherever, you know, to.
For sure, and we
take
have
cover.
to mention that if you do get the app, to allow the notifications.
Yeah.
Because that's when we can send the push notifications right to your app. And a feature that I absolutely love is our KSAT Connect, which is basically like weather social media. Okay, so you can post your pictures of the weather, and we like to show them on air. And recently, we've been doing a Fido's forecast with dog pictures too, when we've got a little bit quiet weather there. You guys are insiders. You probably know all about our app, but just in case, let your friends know about it, because this is something that we, as Adam was talking about, are very passionate about. Because what do you reach for first thing in the morning? A lot of people reach for their phones first thing in the morning,
Or when you hear thunder.
or when you hear thunder, or when there's a severe thunderstorm warning. Sometimes you don't get to your remote quick enough to turn on KSAT, but don't worry, because we can come right to your phone. So please tell your friends about it. We're really proud of that.
We are.
Absolutely.
We are proud of this app. We're not just promoting it because management's telling us to. No, we do this because we believe in it, and it's a great way to get information and to stay on top of the situation.
Absolutely.
Well, and the KSAT Connect pictures, love to use those because, like we were talking about, say with rain, and you know, more happen in one part of town or something like that, and people send in rain gauge pictures.
It helps with the ground truth. You know, like radar can say, oh, you know, this much fell here, or oh, maybe there's penny-size hail here in a strong storm. But yeah, when users have the ability to say, I have penny-size hail right now falling, and they can upload those photos, that also helps us as meteorologists when we're trying to get that information out to you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, anything to add before we go to our question or Q&As?
I mean, my soapbox is I'm always ready to step on it. Different subjects. Don't get me going on weather watches and naming storms. But anyway.
I will say we listen. So when you email us or you're asking us questions, we listen.
Absolutely.
We do like to adapt and make sure we're tailoring our forecast to you at home. And so we do listen to what you say.
Yeah, and you guys
That's
are
what
all,
we're here for.
Exactly.
We're here for y'all.
Y'all are engaged, y'all are insiders, it's awesome. So Rocio, let's see, do we have any questions here? And I'll repeat the questions so that.
Yes. So starting off, we do have our summer intern Amanda joining us. So
Oh, our summer
Yeah.
intern Amanda is joining us. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us.
all right. And then our first question here was from Damon. He's asking, what are Mia's favorite Floresville memories?
Okay, great. Damon is asking, what are Mia's favorite Floresville memories?
This one's easy, Peanut Festival. I know that we've already talked about that, but just growing up, that was one of the biggest things that, Floresville is so proud of. That's Floresville's pride and joy. And sure, also, Friday night football games and going to Eschenberg Stadium and just hanging out, because Floresville is just, as are all of the small towns in this area, just so charming, and they each have their own things about them that make them so unique. And just growing up in that town, and second weekend of October, we were so excited to go downtown, get a gordita, chicken on a stick, ride the carnival ride, see the coronation, and be in the parade. Those kind of things are just what I absolutely love about not just growing up in a small town, but growing up in South Texas.
When you said that your family would then, make the trip up to San Antonio, what did you come here and see, and what do you remember?
We would do, it depended on the time of year. A lot of times, if we just wanted to get out of the house, we would go to North Star Mall, go to La Cantera, hang out. We would go to the Botanical Garden sometimes, or the zoo. And when it was Christmas time, my parents would love to take us to the Riverwalk. And I just remember being so I still am so fascinated by all the beautiful lights of the Riverwalk, and we would go eat, and then we would go to Mitiera, Costa Rio, or things like that. So I think San Antonio is so awesome because it is a big city, but it's just so unique, and it has its own feel to it, and that's just love it so much.
All right, we have another insider who's asking what inspired Noah to become meteorologist.
What inspired us to become meteorologists?
We have a similar story to Mia, if you heard that before.
Yeah.
Storms when you're a kid, not scared. Instead, you want to go outside and see it and watch it. And
Exactly.
Maybe or maybe not. I'm not suggesting you do this. Climb up on my roof to try to get a better view of some of the storms moving in. Don't do it. I wasn't smart then, but
We all did it. It's
Okay, I know, but don't. I'm not suggesting you do it. But anyway, just got into it.
Yeah. 1987, Saragossa tornado. That's what did it for me. I was living near that. It saw the destruction. So kind of similar to your story. That I wanted to know why it happened. Figure it out.
Mine was the same year, actually.
Yeah.
Just the opposite. I was terrified of thunderstorms when I was little. There was a tornado when we were at my grandparents' house in southern Indiana one time when I was little. I was completely terrified. So it's very ironic I'm now doing the weather.
That is, yeah.
And when we were, those little kids that were little weather nerds growing up, every project you could do in school, do it on the weather, book report weather, right? We'd always do that. And we were kind of the anomalies, when you're young, but then you get to college and you're like, oh wow, everybody else is like this.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not the only weather nerd around.
I was the only person to watch local of the 8s every 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I thought fascinating too was trying to learn what I could. This is before the internet, when I was watching. I'd learn what I could from Paul Douglas on KARE 11 at night. And then also I thought it was fascinating, like, wow, okay, so he uses science and measurements and calculations to predict the future. And I was like, that's so cool to predict the future.
It is pretty
It
amazing.
is, it's cool.
It is.
It is so cool.
More questions? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
We have a question from John. Are there any predictions for the winter weather this year?
Oh, from Joan, are there any predictions for the winter weather this year? Well,
We're going into a La Nina again.
yeah, so probably drier than average,
Yep.
which is not what we want to hear right now.
But what does the Farmer's Almanac say?
Oh, good.
There it is.
The stage is yours.
Sorry.
Now it's time for me to get up.
Soapbox.
No, La Nina, drier typically, a
Little
little bit
warmer.
warmer than average, but I can guarantee too, we're probably going to have a pretty strong Arctic cold front.
always do it
At
those
least
years.
once, and perhaps even a light icing event. Those often happen too.
It may average out over the winter to be above average, but we've noticed, and we always talk about it, those La Nina years, yes, it'll average out, but we'll have that one hard-hitting moment when, okay, it's cold, notice it, and a little bit of wintry precip.
And February always seems like, as I put it, the squirrely month. Always
yeah,
has.
it is pretty squirrely.
Yeah, squirrely for sure.
You get the morning drizzle and then those strong Arctic fronts
The ice.
sometimes, and obviously
yeah.
our winter storm of 2021. So.
And it's hit 100 before in San Antonio in February.
My first February here, February 1996,
Yeah.
the month basically was the first, second, or whatever, started off with some ice. And then the 21st, I think it is, hit 100, the earliest 100
Wow.
ever. And then the end of the month, just a week later, freezing temperatures again.
Jeez.
That's our weather. And
you.
yeah,
Gotta love it.
we literally cannot be more specific than that because it's
Yeah.
impossible to predict the weather this far out, but we can give you some
Odds
climate.
favor.
Yes, exactly.
Odds favor above average for most of the winter, and then probably one big hit at some point, one or two. And big hits, we don't mean like what we had a couple of years ago.
Absolutely.
It's just
That's a once in a 30, 50
yeah,
year
a temperature
event.
drop with noticeable effects.
Yeah.
Our insider Oscar wants to know, Mike, if you remember weather facts.
Oscar wants to know if you, Mike, remember weather facts. Any
Weather
context from
facts.
that?
Yes, he says the snow, the purple wheat facts.
Oh, the DIFAX? Like DIFAX charts, maybe?
Oh,
Okay. The
yes,
smell of the purple dye.
yes. Because it literally, like I said, it was a roll of paper soaked in, I think, like a saline solution, and it was on this big printer, and it would spark back and forth. And yes, it did have a
wow.
distinct smell to it.
Probably
and
burn, right?
And you see them like in old movies when they have the, they rip the weather map and they put it up, and there were these huge maps, and there was no ink with it, and you'd have to order these rolls, and almost like changing the cartridge on the printer
my
or something like that when it would,
gooey one, yeah.
And we'd pin them up, and like I said, I learned how to use colored pencils and just color in all the fronts and do all that stuff the old-fashioned way.
That is cool.
My buddy Mike Nelson in Denver, he still has a map wall. Prints them out, puts them on the clipboards, and at all the different levels. Yep. Basically like the old DIFAX.
Awesome.
Oscar also wants to know what season of the year is it harder to forecast and why.
Oh, Oscar wants to know what season of the year is it harder to forecast and why?
Winter.
Yeah.
Winter. Yeah.
Winter precipitation.
And precipitation in winter.
Again, expectations, capabilities, right? And when you're talking an error of 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, that is very challenging and specific, but that's what makes the difference, and that's far exceeds our capabilities in terms of
Between
meteorology.
The 1
For
degree
phase
Fahrenheit
changes, yeah.
Between snow, ice,
Yes.
sleet, all that.
The game changing 1 or 2 degrees, and that's what it is. And getting it within 15, 25 miles is pretty good, even though people may not think that, but meteorologically and historically it's fantastic.
And we have
that we
pretty
can.
intense, elevation changes within Bexar County. I mean, Justin, what was your story from a year or so ago about?
Yeah, it was snowing in my neighborhood, and then once I got out of my neighborhood, it was rain. I mean, it literally was, I went down maybe 30 feet in elevation, but it was, that's the kind of elevation you deal with in Bexar County, and the kind of changes. It's very subtle.
And sometimes it's not even elevation. That's the thing. I mean, I even had it in Washington, D.C. I was 4 miles away from where I lived. It was rain. Where I lived, my kids were making a snowman. There was enough snow for not just like snowballs, but a full-on snowman. 4 miles as the crow flies. It was crazy.
And then you think of elevation as far as overpasses and things like that.
Right.
So it may be 34 down here, but you go up 80 feet and it's 32.
Little room for error in the winter is why I say that. When it comes to precipitation.
Spring and fall bring their challenges too, but I think we can all agree that summer is the easiest.
Okay, it's a lot
Actually, it is
easier
last
to
year.
say, oh wow, we've got a pretty good chance of strong thunderstorms 4 days from now than it is, oh, we're going to have a mix from rain to snow to sleet, back to snow to freezing rain 4 days from now. You
Very
just
true.
can't
And
do
that'll
that.
only be on northern Bexar County.
Yes.
And then there,
Great question, Oscar.
Yep.
Thank you.
Another insider wants to know, how can I be a weather watcher and report temperatures?
Oh, that's a good question. How can I be a
Yeah.
weather watcher and report temperature?
So basically, you have to be available most weekdays, right? Obviously, not every day of the year, right? But most weekdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with an accurate thermometer that's placed in the shade, not away from any external influences like concrete or your AC system or whatnot. And you can just email us, weatherwatchers@ksat.com, your reading, and we can put it up there.
Yeah. And I think the key there is a properly properly installed weather station.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Just thermometer, and especially rain reports.
So those are all the questions from insiders.
Okay.
And I have some questions for you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So are meteorologists allowed to have a favorite type of weather? If so, what weather makes you the happiest?
Okay. Do we have a favorite weather, and what weather makes us the happiest? All right.
ladies, go first.
You go.
Yeah,
Sarah.
you go. Me and me.
Okay, I will say that I have 2 favorite different types. I love a beautiful blue sky day, kind of like today, beautiful to step out to, but I also just love like a blanket of rain, 50 degrees outside, to where I can just like lay on the couch and watch a movie, in my blanket.
Awesome.
No severe weather, just a nice calm rain. and it just be a little chilly. I think
love
that's
that.
that's my kind of favorite type of weather.
As Mike would say, tomato soup and grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese
There
and
you
soup
go.
weather. Yep.
Classic.
I
It's a
love
Mike line. I love it.
I love it. I know. I love standing out in the middle when a cold front hits. When
Yeah.
a particularly strong cold front hits, that's like,
You remember we went up to the roof that time?
oh yeah, I remember. I've got an awesome video of Justin. The wind is blowing through his hair.
I thought you were going to get blown away.
Yeah, it was a pretty intense cold front.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And those cold fronts can bring stronger winds than sometimes our storms that we get, you
can.
know. And for me, oh gosh, it varies so significantly because it's all relative. People are, always say, "Oh man, it must be so great in Southern California. It's like sunny and 70." I go, "No, you would get so bored with that." So to me, in the summer, I crave something else. In the winter, I'll crave something else. And I just think it's really fun to have a good, fresh, quick snow because snow's a toy. I mean, yes, it can get in the way and cause us problems. We all know that. But in the end, it's just a big toy, too. Like, it's so fun to play in. Not live in, but to play in for a
That's
little
true.
bit. That's why I like living here and just traveling up north every so often, maybe once a year. And snow is so fun. It's a toy.
And as long as the grid holds up.
That's okay, that all goes without saying, but our
Yes.
grid should,
It should.
hold up.
So Fox?
So I would have, yes, actually. That'll be a different insider.
Yeah,
yeah.
different insiders event. Mike,
Cool weather.
cool weather.
Cool weather.
Yeah, and grilled cheese and soup weather. So be it just crisp and cold like, this morning and tomorrow morning, or just that gray day.
I do have to say also when I was in Death Valley, California, it was 124 or something. It was so awesome. Like, I love that. The extremes. Awesome. They're so cool.
It's incredible to see, right?
Yes, they're so cool.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
Cutting a hole in the lake and jumping in is fun too.
I like all of it. I just don't like cold. I mean, that's.
But
I
for
don't
Justin-
like being cold.
You should hear him
What do
when
you
cold
consider
fronts are
cold?
coming.
What do
I
you
love when it
consider
snows.
cold?
I like 50.
50.
Oh. Pretty good.
I can't help it. I just don't like cold weather. I do
don't
like when
blame
it
you.
snows, but if it's gonna be cold, it might as well snow. Otherwise, I'm good.
I love sending Justin the video of me cutting a hole in the frozen lake and jumping in. And he said,
That's a
you
big
need to
no.
get your head
And
examined.
he was
That's
with
a no for me,
temperatures in
dog.
the 40s this morning, right, Justin?
What's that?
You came in angry because it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
I did have the seat warmers on. I can tell you that much.
Don't tell me you preheated your car too.
I didn't do that.
Okay.
All right, we'll do one more question.
Yeah, one more
Rosia.
question. So we have a question from Maritza. What weather factors go into allergy season being worse at times than others?
That's a great question. Maritza asks, what kind of weather goes into making an allergy season worse than others? Well, first it has to do with how much the trees are pollinating, right?
They're
Which
going
deals
to
with-
no matter
And they're
what.
going to no
Rain and
matter
drought
what.
do
Yeah.
play a role in that. Yeah.
They do play a major role, and obviously, in the spring, mountain cedar season, it's always bad after a cold front, and we get cold fronts that come through all the time. If the trees are pollinating, and they do every year, but if we get a strong cold front at the same time, that'll knock up the mountain cedar. And molds are typically bad after a rain. If we get some sun right after the rain too, because the mold starts to grow and stuff like that.
You're talking about how the weather affects it, and going back to KSAT Connect pictures, how many times have we had pictures and videos of those fronts hitting the mountain cedar trees, and it's just like, they just almost explode and all that,
People hit them with a bat and.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and what Marissa might be getting at is, can we predict if it's going to be a good allergy season or
yeah.
bad?
Not really.
No. You're going to have an allergy season no matter what. It's and some days will be worse than others, but rain can help. Winds to blow stuff out of town can help. Like a southerly wind in the winter helps with mountain cedar.
Absolutely.
What's worse, mountain cedar or oak?
For me, it's oak.
Yeah.
For me, it's
They're
oak.
both bad.
Yeah.
They both have their.
What's
negatives.
worse, 30 degrees, mountain cedar?
Don't get me started.
5,800 degree days in the summer, and,
Yeah.
and what, 155 was it?
90
degrees?
plus, yeah.
90 plus days this year.
It's been that year.
I went 90 for Sunday just to do it.
You should.
You did?
Why not?
I did. I think we're going to get it. I know now pressure's on.
It would be the most 90
Just
degree
so-
days.
I'm going 89 tomorrow just because.
You
It
should.
would
I
be
don't
the
dare.
most 90 degree days for a year on record for San Antonio. So that would be interesting. Guys, I don't know about y'all, but I've had a lot of fun. The five of us hardly get to be in the same room.
It's
Yeah.
very rare.
Ever at one time, and we have you guys, the KSAT Insiders, to thank for that. We're so thankful that you guys are insiders, and of course, continue to stay signed up because we're going to hopefully do this, but in person in the future, which would be
That would
awesome.
be a blast.
If you had a fun time, tell your friends about it. It's totally free to be a KSAT Insider, and it's just a way for us to get to know y'all better. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. I got to get back to some
Appreciate it.
thermometers
Yeah.
now.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Rocio. And
Yes.
Yes.
Valerie and Will over
Who's
there
Will
for
over
helping
there?
us out. So thanks, guys, so much. Talk to y'all later.